I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
Welcome back to the Quarter Mile Podcast Season 2. We have made it. Just like in Fast and Furious, the first one they were in LA and then they drove to Miami for the second episode. We are recording now in my hometown in Nashville, Tennessee. New location, new co-host. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited to introduce you, if you don't already know, to one of my good friends, one of my favorite comedy people, CJ WALTON. CJ, we are so glad to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Quarter Mile Podcast.
Thank you for letting me walk down here.
Yeah, well, thank you for. We were at CJ's house, so thank you for letting me walk here or drive here.
Drive here, right?
Yeah, it was great. I'm so excited to have you on this podcast. We're so excited about season 2. Right off the bat, I would love for everyone listening to learn a little bit about you. So if you don't mind telling us about yourself, and as we always ask every one of our people on this podcast, one of the most important questions you'll ever answer at the Quarter Mile Podcast is, what is your relationship with the Fast and Furious? And just so you know, your answer may, like, that will dictate whether you're on episode 2 or not.
Oh, wow. Sheesh. Okay. So I'm originally from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Shout out to Chattanooga.
All day. Shout out to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Born and raised. Went to high school there. Got christened and baptized and all that there, and came up here because I'm a third generation Tennessee State University, founded in 1912 as a land grant institution in the Northwest Rocky Hills of Nashville, Tennessee.
Wow. Yeah, wow. It sounds like you invented.
It does sound like I invented Tennessee State University, but I did not. My grandmother went there. My mother went there. My sister went there. My father went to Lane. So I'm a definite HBCU.
Yeah.
Girl. I graduated with a theater degree. So I went to Performing Arts High School. Got my degree in theater, minor in journalism. So I love the news.
That's
I'm a
so
nerd.
cool. Yeah.
I'm a nerd.
I did not know about that about you until we actually sat down and had like a real conversation, like a comedy show.
Oh, yeah. Like
and then you were like all about the news, and I was like, wow, it was like a different onion layer.
Yeah. I love history. Like any type of history, any type of news, or any world news, political news, anything. I'm like, I love to soak that up. And speaking different languages. I teach kids. I've been working with kids since I was 15. I have a family member who has Down syndrome, but that, of course, doesn't mean anything. It just means you just have Down syndrome.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she was able to go to college and do whatever. So I started doing that and started working with kids up here in Nashville. I won Best Actress of the Year in 2017.
Wow, awesome.
Thank you.
What was the movie?
It was a role, Clybourne Park. Oh, and then I got into comedy in 2017. Yeah, 17? Yeah, 2017 because of Renard Hirsch.
One of my favorite comedians.
Ever.
Shout out to Renard Hirsch.
And then started doing my own thing, kind of fell back, I directed my very first Broadway play here in Nashville.
Very cool.
Thank you. You opened up, didn't you? One of my shows, Bye Bye Birdie?
No, I've never been in
okay.
It, so no.
I know I had comedians open up the show.
That's awesome. I bet you that was so much fun. I bet you what a great audience, like the audience for a theater, like for a show, any theater audience.
Any theater.
It's going to be a great
show.
Yeah,
because that's my dream. I want to be a comedic actress.
Right.
Like, that's who I want to be. Like, I want to do comedy, but I also want to be like Melissa McCarthy or Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, I was about to ask who your inspirations were, but that's cool.
Those two. Yeah. Well, definitely those two. But that's me.
So now let's talk Fast and Furious.
Yes.
What's your relationship with God's favorite franchise, as I like to call it?
I mean, I'm an original Fast and Furious girl. When it first came out, I was like, okay, because I like cars.
Yep.
I'm from Chat, and that means I'm a country girl, which means I like drag racing. I'm a theater girl, which means I grew up on Grease, which means I was like, yes, let's and drive and let's see who's gonna win. And then I'm not gonna lie, I like a bad guy. I like a bad boy. I like a bad boy. So when Fast and Furious came out, it was honestly like not the bad guy winning, but the people who were supposed to get the cars got the cars.
Yeah, it was especially the first one. Like
The first one took me by surprise.
You don't know, like there is no clear good and bad guy.
That's
Like,
and I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
That's
Yeah,
the
that's what I'm
beauty of
trying to say.
which they try to do in Point Break. We're gonna talk about that in a little bit. A lot of people compare the two and say they're basically the same movie, and I have very strong opinions about that. So
yeah, I guess so.
We'll
But I see what they're saying, but I don't see what they're saying.
good. I can't wait we're going to cover that. We're going to talk about that. That's going to be a good time. Before we get into Point Break, if this is your first time tuning into the Quarter Mile podcast, let me just give you a Fast and Furious recap. This is our second season. Our first season, we did a wild ride through the first 10 Fast and Furious movies.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Okay.
And it was awesome. I'm obsessed with the series. This whole podcast is Fast and Furious themed. And what that means for this season is we are technically out of the 10 original movies that are part of like the series. Now, what you guys might notice in future episodes, including next week's episode, side note, we were a monthly podcast and now we're a weekly podcast.
Nice.
So that's exciting. Is occasionally we'll hit some of the off-brand Fast and Furious movies, but a lot of the movies we're covering this for this season are what I'm calling Fast and Furious adjacent movies.
Okay.
So, like for example, Point Break, Fast and Furious ripped off the plot of Point Break, and I wish I didn't. I wish that was wrong, but when the directors themselves say that, then you have to be like, well, okay. And we'll talk more about that in this episode, but they did find inspiration for the first Fast and Furious movie off of Point Break. Hence why we're taking our first episode to talk about Point Break.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, but we got other movies coming up. We'll follow us on all of our social media because then you'll see everything we got going on. We have lots of polls, we have lots of interactions. Before we do every episode, we like to ask people what their opinions are of the episode. So the Quarter Mile podcast, if you just type that in, anything will pop up. Well, this whole podcast is we review movies, we have fun. If you're looking for really snobby, snooty, righteous movie critics, that's not us. We enjoy it, we have fun. We're gonna have opinions.
I'm snooty.
Okay, CJ's gonna drop the snoot. I'm more of like a look, I don't care. I liked it, I didn't like it.
I'm bougie. Not just kidding.
So yeah, you put the bougie in chat in it.
I definitely do, don't I?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we are just here to have a good time.
Absolutely.
Our motto at the Quarter Mile podcast is life is short, listen to a podcast.
Absolutely.
So that being said, today we are talking about Point Break. I gotta be honest, I didn't know this movie was as big as a deal.
Oh.
I did not. So like, I guess this is like one of those like 90s movies that everyone saw, right?
It's
like,
a cult classic. It started the cult classic genre.
I know that now. I existed in the 90s and I had nobody ever said go watch Point Break. I absolutely loved it. It was a great movie. I understand the hype. Now we will get into how I think people, downplay Fast and Furious because of Point Break.
And see, I've never heard that.
Yeah. Oh,
so I'm very happy to delve into that with you. I'm very happy to delve into that with you.
Before we get into our own opinions, we got a few things to cover. First,
let's go over.
Just for the overview, the director was Catherine Bigelow.
Yes, she was.
We know mostly from The Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30. Do you like either of those movies?
I like The Hurt Locker.
Yeah, that's a powerful movie. And then the cast, great big names: Keanu Reeves, Patrick Swayze, the big ones, Gary Busey. This is the first time I saw like Gary Busey act. I feel like I've only.
Are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, I feel like I've only seen Gary Busey making fun of Gary Busey.
You know what? Don't do my boy like that. Don't do Gary like that, man.
Okay,
y'all be doing Gary wrong, man. Yes, he's crazy, but y'all be doing it. He's a good actor.
He is. Like he to me, he's one of the best parts of this movie.
Thank you. When he died, I was very upset.
Yeah,
I'm still upset at the fact at the way he died.
Yeah, honestly, when I was watching this movie, I thought he was I thought the way the plot was going was he was going to be like a dirty cop, like he was working because
right.
Watch it. There's few. It's just like the whole like when he was waiting for like asking him to go get a sandwich. It's funny because it's like I thought like he's gonna do something nefarious. Dude just wanted a sandwich.
When I tell you, we'll get back to that part. Okay. We'll get back to that.
We'll get back to it. Also in this movie, Lori Petty, she was great in this movie, and she's been in a lot of other good.
Yeah, she is.
I hate to say it though,
Give her flowers, man.
I forget about her until I see her in a movie.
Exactly.
and
Give
I'm
her her
like, "She's
flowers,
great."
man.
Yeah,
Give her
so-
her flowers. Give her her flowers.
And then John C. McGinney. What's the role you think of when you think of John C. McGinney? There's one like big one for me.
Give it to me.
So I think of Dr. Cox from Scrubs. When I was watching him here, it felt like he was the character from Scrubs, just in as
Or that was pre Scrubs.
yeah.
Pre
I think the Scrubs people were like, "Hey, we want you to do that character for this show." Like,
True. I know we're doing this at my house, but get out.
so yeah. Well, I'm never gonna make. No, you get out.
You get out. If I'm not mistaken, and because I'm a theater girl, that was one of Keanu's early big breakouts.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, I want to say Swayze might have been a little bit bigger than him
Yeah.
at the time. Don't quote me. Don't quote me on that. But
Everyone quote her. Every single one of you. Top
I wanna
quotes,
say
CJ
with-
Walton.
may
That's
he
your
rest in
girl,
peace.
CJ.
may he rest in peace. But I want to say that might have been Keanu's. Because it couldn't have been Speed. I
No,
want to
this
say
is- this was pre-Speed.
This was way pre-Speed.
If you guys want to just nerd out more on Point Break, we actually dropped a Christmas episode where I interviewed my friend Kyle Castro, who runs the Movie
Love
Wars podcast.
Kyle.
Great guy. He runs the Movie Wars podcast. He's also Point Break is one of his favorite movies. And so when I learned that, I was like, well, we got to do an extra bonus episode where we just talk to you. And so he has all kinds of fun facts about Keanu Reeves, this movie. It's our 12th episode, so to speak. It was bonus content, but it kind of wrapped up season 1 and led us into season 2. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, wow, I would love I just can't get enough Point Break stuff. The episode is called A Point Break Stocking Stuffer because
I love that.
we dropped it on Christmas. So yes.
I mean, any Keanu Reeves facts, like I
Yeah.
would honestly love to delve into that or him. Whichever one.
Yeah, delve into him. Yeah. So
Whichever one.
yeah, whichever one. He's so cool. And he was most recently Shadow the Hedgehog, which
Oh, so sweet.
he did so good. Those of you who know our podcast well, you know that oftentimes, instead of just giving a summary, we do something a little bit weird, a little bit special, where we generate an artificial intelligence summary. And we learned midway into our season last year that it's a lot more fun when you ask AI to take it from perspective. So today we have an AI plot summary of Point Break, supposedly from the perspective of Keanu Reeves. So CJ is literally an award-winning actress. So I thought it'd be really fun if she gave us her best Keanu Reeves impression as she read the plot summary. And if you're seeing this, feel free to just comment and let us know how blown away you are at her Keanu Reeves impression. So
I hope it's good. I hope it's good. All right.
here it comes.
Whoa. Let me take you back to the early 90s. All right, dude, here's the lowdown on Point Break. Play Johnny Utah, this hotshot FBI agent with a chip on his shoulder. Just graduated from Quantico, and they throw me into the deep end of the pool in Los Angeles, where I team up with seasoned and somewhat jaded agent Angelo Pappas, man. Portrayed by the incomparable Gary Busey. Love him.
Incomparable.
Man, he's great. So Pappas has this like wild theory about a group of bank robbers called the ex-presidents. These guys wear masks of former U.S. presidents when they hit banks with surgical precision. Kicker, you ready for this?
So ready.
Pappas thinks they're surfers. I know, right? Totally radical, man. All right, so check this out. To get closer to the truth, I go undercover and learn how to surf. Enter Bodie, played by the one and only Patrick Swayze. Yo, Bodie is this charismatic, fearless, and somewhat philosophical leader of the group of surfers. The guy is mesmerizing, man. Talks about surfing like in a spiritual way. Journey, man, we bond, and I start getting pulled into his world, all the while still trying to nail him as the mastermind behind the ex-presidents. Hopefully my voice is doing really good. Yo, I'm gonna keep going. Yo, the waves get higher, the stakes get gnarlier. Bodie and his crew aren't just surfing. They're living on the edge, man. Constantly searching for that ultimate rush, the 50-year storm, like this mythical monster wave. It's like the perfect storm that encapsulated their entire philosophy of living life to the fullest, no matter the consequences. Then the action amps up. There's a skydiving scene that's totally insane. Pure adrenaline, man. Loyalties get blurred, and it's like identity as an FBI agent clashes with its newfound brotherhood with Bodhi and the surfers. The climax is an intense showdown on the beach as the 50-year storm finally hits. Yo, Bodhi catches the wave, seeking his ultimate rush, while I'm left grappling with the fallout of living a double life and the choices I've made. So, yeah, man, Point Break is like this wild ride of adrenaline, philosophy, and some killer surf scenes, man. It's not just a heist movie. It's about the lure of freedom, the cost of chasing your dreams, and finding your true self in the most unexpected places. Yo, hang 10 dudes. Whoa.
I felt like CJ left the room and Keanu Reeves himself came and was a special guest.
I hope I did, Mr. Reeves. Proud.
Hey, Keanu, if you're watching this, let us know. Let us know if you're listening to this podcast how we did. Now we're to my favorite part of the show, which is we call it Fast Fan Feedback.
Yes.
So before every episode, before every movie review, we always put it out online on Facebook, on Instagram, on Reddit. To random people in conversations, if I'm being honest, I'll just ask them, what do you think about this movie? And so these are some of your all's thoughts on Point Break. Most of these, I believe, came from Reddit. So the big question I was asking people on Reddit was like, what do you guys think about this being, Fast and Furious being a ripoff from Point Break? Do you care? Is it a big deal? Like, does it matter? Do you agree? Do you disagree? And this is what people said. So this one person, AQLNO, I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but that was the letters in their name. There's not enough vowels.
It's not enough vowels, but I'm going to go with alkaline.
Yeah, that sounds right. So yeah,
battery.
Anyway,
We're going to call you battery.
So alkaline, if you're listening, feel free.
No, we're please correct us. Please correct us.
Alkaline. This is what alkaline said. This is one of my favorite things to think about. How movies and other media influences inspire one another. It's undeniable that Fast and Furious follows a near identical plot to Point Break, but I still find them to be very different viewing experiences.
I have to agree. And I guess because I've never thought about connecting the two. So that's where we're today. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the comparison.
Yeah, that's where I'm at today.
Yeah. This other person who is with dumb queso. Yep. So this is what Mr. Queso or Mrs. Queso or just Queso said.
I like queso.
Yeah. Every time I look at the name, I'm like, sounds good. Personally, I don't care that Fast 1 was basically Point Break. Okay, that's where I argue, but we're fine. In my opinion, it used the premise and changed the basic elements.
Okay, I see where you're going.
And then this was a good point they brought up that we covered in multiple of our early episodes. Also, when I think about it, a lot of Fast and Furious movies are basically other movies, but with cars. Tokyo Drift, for example, was the Karate Kid with cars, which is crazy that you can make so many comparisons.
Yeah, I guess you can.
Furious 7 is Die Hard with a Vengeance with cars. Debatable. Fast 9 follows a Godfather 2 structure and features cars. I don't know about those, but I do know that Fast 5 definitely had Italian Job vibes.
Yeah. I'll give you that.
I do know that Fast 10, Fast X was it.
I haven't seen X.
Yeah, well, it is basically like the Avengers Infinity War, like the way, even from the point where the cliffhanger ending, trying to bring all the superheroes together, like and then one thing we noticed when we watched Fast 8 was this was back when zombie movies were kind of a bigger deal.
The bigger, yeah.
Okay. And so they actually did what they called zombie cars in the movies, which where they were being automatically controlled from one device, and they actually made a scene that looked like zombies were coming at you, but they were cars instead of zombies.
Yeah, but that's a stretch. Godfather 2?
I don't know about that. I don't know, but
it's a big stretch.
If you think Fast 9 is like Godfather 2, someone please tell us how. I don't know. And then the last comment is from this is Jacob B. Riddle. That's actually compared to the other names, that was super clear and concise. Thank you.
Jacob B. Riddle.
Jacob says they are nearly shot for shot the same films. I don't know about that, but I love them both for what they are and almost love them more once noticing. For ages, I've been wanting to do a side-by-side screening of them. Well, Jacob, if you decide to do a side-by-side screening, go check out our friends at Movie Wars podcast because they have a Fast and Furious versus Point Break episode. You got to scroll down a little bit, But in preparation for this episode, I listened to that, and they do a side-by-side comparison. So
Yeah, that's pretty good.
so check that out if you want or not. Before we get into our own opinions and our own thoughts about this movie, for everyone listening, my favorite part is hearing your opinions. My favorite part is interacting with other fans of all the movies we cover, Point Break, Fast and Furious, whatever you want. Please check us out on social media, the Quarter Mile Podcast. We regularly will post the movies we're reviewing and just basically be like, what do you think? One of my favorite things we do is each season we do a different poll and try to get as many people involved in the poll. Last year it was ranking the Fast and Furious movies. For this season, we do know we're going to have a season 3. We're going to run out of Fast and Furious adjacent films.
Yes, we are.
So the way we're doing season 3 is we are going to hyper focus on one of the main actors and cover their movies.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so it'll be pretty cool. So, but the way we've
You
figured
didn't
it
tell
out.
me that. That'd be
Yeah,
fun.
oh yeah, my bad. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Sorry.
That's
This is news to you all, and this is news to CJ. This is great. Yeah. So the way we're gonna figure out what actor we're gonna do though, is we're gonna put it up as a poll and leave it up for the entire second season. And so you can vote at any point. You can literally pause this. Hopefully you're not driving, but you can pause this. You can go to social media. You can drop a vote right now if you want. So for the for season 3, here are going to be the options. We're gonna have Vin Diesel. We're gonna have Paul Walker. We're gonna have Michelle Rodriguez, and then we're gonna have a kind of a fourth weird option. But those of you who know Fast and Furious know that they have a Netflix animated series.
They do.
So the fourth option is gonna be just the first season of Fast and Furious Speed Racers or Spy Racers. It's called
Spy
Fast and Furious
Racers.
Spy Racers. Have you seen that? Have you?
I have not, but I know it's there, and I really want to show it to the kids.
Right. I've watched.
I want to show it to the kids at school.
I've watched a little bit, but I've refrained from watching more until I know I have to talk about it on a podcast.
Yeah.
Now, CJ, it's time for us to give our opinions on this movie. So, would you like to get the conversation rolling, or do you want me to get it rolling? Or
Let me see what you have to say.
okay. Well, right off.
Woman first.
Right. Thank you. Oh, chivalrous. How chivalrous of you.
Yes.
Yes. Right off the bat, going into this movie, the only thing I knew about Point Break was everyone was saying Fast and Furious was a ripoff of Point Break. Like, it's basically the same movie, right? So,
Right.
going into it, that's kind of what I was expecting to see. And at first, I kind of saw it, especially when you compare Paul Walker's character, Brian O'Connor, to Keanu Reeves' character, Johnny Utah. Like, it would be interesting to see Keanu Reeves do a part of Fast and Furious as Brian O'Connor. Because like I
Ooh.
do feel like their characters were very similar. And even some of the opening scenes, like when he's training, when he's practicing his gun practice, that's reminiscent to me in the first Fast and Furious when Paul Walker was like driving
Driving yeah.
But here's where thought as the movie went on, it did kind of drift in different lanes. Like, and to me, the biggest difference was the character of Dominic Toretto and the character of Bodhi. A lot of people, I heard people tell me like, yeah, they're based. I mean, Dominic Toretto's a ripoff of Bodhi,
No.
right? Only thing they had is they were charismatic and passionate, and people followed them. But Vin Diesel's character, by the end, you kind of are left to think, well, he's not really a bad guy. Well, he was the bad guy, but you felt for him. You kind of agreed with Paul Walker for like letting him go and stuff like that. That was the beauty of the movie, was there wasn't I mean, the cops weren't that great. Paul Walker lost in literally everything. Like
Everything.
he wasn't great. And then we'll talk about that a little bit next week when we talk about the turbocharged prelude. Vin Diesel, you felt for him, even though he was technically the antagonist. Whereas Bodhi in Point Break, maybe at the beginning, I was like, this guy seems pretty cool. But as the movie goes on, I'm like, dude's a freaking psycho. Like maybe he meant well, but like he still kidnapped the girl and threatened her life.
Yeah, he did.
Still killed people, and he was all about the rush. And even though they were both kind of Vin Diesel was like, I live my life a quarter mile at a time, and Bodhi was like, I just chase the biggest wave.
I chased the biggest wave, yeah.
At the end of the day, Vin Diesel was more about protecting his people, doing right by his people. Bodhi was like all about chasing that rush.
Well, but Bodhi did want to protect his people. In the beginning of the movie, they never hurt anybody. It was just at the end when his psychopathy changed.
Yeah.
It was at the end of the movie where he was like, that's why he was like, what are you doing? We never do this.
Yeah. But
he never do this.
I feel like he was addicted to the rush, right?
Oh, he was definitely addicted.
As the movie went on, he needed a bigger rush. But a lot of people were like, no, he was like super zen, super chill. I was like, hey,
no, I think when he lost his first partner, that's when he started going down.
Yeah, that was the start of him. Maybe he lost control. Maybe that was.
And he was a man who had control of everything. Even when Keanu was getting beat up. Remember in the first scene when he got beat up by Red Hot Chili Peppers? That's what
Right,
I'm
absolutely.
gonna say.
Which, by the way, I think one of the greatest sins of this movie was we had the Red Hot Chili Peppers, or at least one person in it, but we never got like a Red Hot Chili Pepper song in the movie. Like I was waiting, and sometimes
I
you
just
wait.
knew they were gonna do a song. But
I was so happy for that, but
right at that scene, like he controlled
Mhm.
that scene, just like he controlled the girl, just like he controlled the party.
Right.
So, like you're saying, when he lost control, I really do believe that's when he started
Unraveling.
unraveling and spiraling, and like, I need this rush.
Yeah, but I think the thing is what I kept hearing from people was but yeah, he was a good guy. I was like, I don't think he by the end, like he's the villain.
Huh.
Yeah,
I don't know if he was the good guy. I just know that he didn't want to harm people.
right.
So I can't say he was the good guy.
He was a complex character. I think that's
There we go.
And this is something that Kyle said in our interview with him. And I'm totally probably butchering the rewording, but he was like, what he mentioned was, he was a different kind of villain for those kind of movies because before you just had the nefarious buff dude that Arnold.
Yes.
Very one dimensional, and this character, at least everyone at the beginning, you were kind of rooting for him. You kind of liked him. You liked the charisma. Now towards the end, you kind of were like, I think he's losing it a little.
Yeah, absolutely. You could understand. I couldn't understand his reasonings because if you just want to do the big wave and you're gonna probably die, why do you need to keep hitting up the banks?
Right.
So that was the complex part that I could not understand because you didn't live for money. Like you said, you live for the rush.
Yeah.
So were you living to die?
Well, kind of. That was his big thing. Was he really wanted that big wave.
That big wave.
He did not care if it killed him or not. Which was kind of the interesting part was the ending of the movie. Both Keanu Reeves, I guess Johnny Utah, and Bodhi, by the end, got exactly what they want.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because, from Keanu Reeves' perspective, he spent months trying to find him after that.
Months.
And he finally got him. And, like, similar to the Fast and Furious when Paul Walker or Brian O'Connor threw out his badge at the end, and he was like, well,
I'm done. Yeah, he can. Yeah.
Johnny Utah, same thing. To him, it was more important to get justice and to, deal with Bodhi and settle the score. And so when he let him get on that wave, like, he knew he was going to die. Like,
that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think he knew that he was going to die? Do you think they both knew?
Bodhi didn't care. It was more about, I just want to ride this amazing wave, and if it kills me, it kills me, right? And and if it didn't kill him, and this, I guess technically, if it didn't kill him, he would have gone to prison. But then, assuming he got out of prison, he would have been looking for that next big rush, or maybe he'd be looking for the rush in prison. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what was interesting to me was because a lot of people, like I would read reviews or critiques about this movie, and they would say just like Brian O'Connor like became kind of friends with Dominic Toretto and like did him a favor by letting him go. Johnny Utah was doing the same thing, but I don't think it was the same thing because I think he was thinking to himself, either he gets on this wave and probably kills himself, which he was kind of rooting for, or he surfs finally, and then they take him to prison and it's whatever. But but at the end when he threw his badge away, that to me that was his way of being like, look, because I made this call as a law enforcement person that I'd rather watch this person die, I can't be a police officer anymore.
I agree with that, and then I also think that he just once that was a goal that he set out to accomplish.
Right.
He got the goal. He was like, he already got his girl. And notice they did not leave. They were still together.
Yeah.
So I feel like he was just like, I've done everything that I needed to do. I got you.
Yeah.
Whatever they want to do. And I honestly think that he felt a kinship to him.
It's like everyone was like, he's so charismatic. He's so cool. Like he's so zen. I'm like, no, he's a psycho.
He's a psycho.
You're fascinated by him.
He's a definitely wonderful manipulator. Yeah. He's a definitely wonderful manipulator. I definitely think that.
He would have ran a great cult.
Oh my god!
He would have been great cult. Like the Surfer Bros.
Yeah, he had the Surfer Bros. I mean, there was no way that 4-on-1. Come on, y'all.
Yeah.
And then they let it go.
Yeah.
Like those were his boys. He knew.
Yeah, surely they could have been like, "We're not gonna do this.
We're not gonna do this."
They're like, "No, Bodhi says it. Let's trust him."
Right. Like every time that Bodhi, if they, this is Johnny Utah. Oh yeah, anytime but he said
Yeah.
something, they were automatically
They're
like,
like, all right, cool. And you really saw that in the scene after everything went down and the guy died in the bank robbery. And they're like, what are we going to do? We got to stop. We got to run. And he got up at that campfire and
Yep.
like his little motivational speech was all they needed.
Yep.
So
That's exactly what I was talking about. Like exactly at the campfire. And then women, for him to go from woman to woman, and don't get me wrong. I mean, if you find what you find what I'm fine, but he was like, these are my women. Here, take her. Here's one. Like this is what she likes, and
Yeah.
this is what she doesn't.
It didn't really matter to him. He was just like, whatever.
Because they were everyone pretty much. It felt like everyone there belonged to Bodhi.
Yeah, absolutely. He was kind of the alpha of the whole culture, and
I
people with
definitely think he was.
When you think about the specifics of this movie, how weird is it that they're like, we need an officer, a federal officer to go undercover. Let's pick the famous former football player that everyone
Let's pick
knows.
the one that everybody knows that we bet money on at Ohio State,
Right.
and we know what happened, that he blew out his knee and all of that.
He seems like a perfect candidate to learn how to surf.
First, then we let him say his real name.
Right? Yeah, they weren't like they were like no one's like maybe give a different name and just say like, oh, I get that. I look a lot.
That was the hole for me. Like, bruh, that was the hole for me.
That was
like, you're Johnny Utah.
It was like, well, I mean, clearly he's not going to be a cop because he's a really cool former football player.
Yeah, you're right.
One of us, he's a cool guy. Let's not ask
football,
any questions.
Football players don't become cops. Like,
when I think about this movie, clearly the actors in Point Break, I think like are better than the actors in the Fast and Furious, especially. Yeah, like when you're talking about big names, however, I would argue that Fast and Furious, the characters were better than the characters in Point Break. Like when you look at Bodhi's crew versus Vin Diesel, Dominic Toretto's crew, like each of his, he had Vince, he had Jesse, he had Letty, he had Mia, all these people who were
nobody was better than Gary Busey.
Yeah, we had Gary Busey.
And nobody's better than Gary Busey. I'm sorry.
Although he was probably my favorite character in the movie. The thing that cracked me up at the beginning was, why were they having him like go down and pick up
bricks?
Like, when is that ever going to help you? It would have been really funny if at some point in the movie, some situation happened and he saved the day because he knew how to breathe underwater.
I wish I knew, but I don't have an answer.
Yeah, I don't know. Listen, if you're listening to this and want to, please let us know.
Like what type of
if you know
marine
training for him to go into a pool. It felt like they were just like, well, he's old and we don't care about him, so let's go have him pick up bricks blindfold. Like,
but other people had to do it too.
Yeah, I don't know why. But ultimately, I thought this movie it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. I do see how Fast and Furious was motivated by this movie. If the directors themselves weren't the people that called it a knockoff, I would kind of have a problem with it, because saying that Fast and Furious, completely ripped off Point Break is like saying any movie that has orcs and elves ripped off Tolkien.
I guess the only way I could see it is because Point Break started a cult classic genre. So that's where I could see it. I could see like, oh, well, this heist, that heist. But I mean, I feel like there's, I guess now going over, there's so many differences, but because then who would Lottie be? Would the girlfriend be Michelle Rodriguez?
I mean, you could relate her maybe to Mia more so than
you see. Yeah,
Letty,
you see.
Because she was the one with because just like Brian O'Connor was conning Mia in Fast and Furious, and then the love was there, in the same way Tyler was conned by Johnny Utah.
One thing that really jumped out to me was the relationships between each character, and especially, and I know you're gonna be like, you've said his name so much, but between Gary and Keanu,
I really liked that relationship too.
It was really, I thought it was going to be very off-putting, but it turned out to be probably one of the best relationships.
Yeah, it was just a good friendship, partner relationship. I mean, so many times movies focus on the enemies, the villain versus the hero, or they focus on the love interest. I really like a good movie that has like, these are really good friends, or this is a good partner. I mean, I feel like that's why buddy cop movies do so well.
Yeah, they actually did a good job.
Yeah,
like,
I felt like all the relationships were strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
You had a good, you had the villain hero dynamic, and it didn't start that way, but then
no, that's what I'm saying. I felt like it was more of an uncle nephew.
Yeah.
Almost, because he was literally learning from him on the job. Like and it changed for me when he actually jumped on that thing and was like, showed him like, dude, they're surfers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was like, I was not expecting Gary Busey to do nothing like that. Like,
I love that he right away, like he knew that it was,
so for
surfing, and if we're pointing out plot holes again, I mean that was a legitimate clue and lead that was accurate, and the fact that all the police officers in this whole station were like, "That's so dumb, that's so like that must be the worst police precinct ever."
well, it was
If
because they had how many bank robberies before he got there?
yeah, and they were also like, yeah, let's get a famous football player with an injury as a surfer
Exactly.
undercover.
So
So yeah, maybe that's just the thing about the movies. Like the police precinct was, just not a good one.
no, they weren't. They
So
weren't
yeah,
because again, they had over 100 bank robberies within what 3-4 months.
in
Rush.
the story, they were so good at it, and they were smart to know not to go for the vault because they could save time by
Exactly.
robbing. So the fact that it was so many and they were uncatchable was helped us think like, oh man, they are really good at what they do.
My favorite part of the movie was when Gary told him to go get 3 sandwiches and they were only for $8. Like,
Yeah,
I think that was my favorite part.
man, can you imagine?
3 sandwiches for $8 and they were big. They was some
Yeah.
hoagies, man.
When I know when I was looking, I was like, those sandwiches look real good, right?
They did. So I'm like, you can imagine like going to the bodega
Yeah,
and getting you $8.
that's like 90s right there, plus where they were at.
Come on, man. That was my favorite part
That's
of the movie.
that's the most unbelievable part of the movie.
That was the most
that was the biggest
unbelievable part.
stretch.
Yeah, I don't care what anybody says. Any action. No, my favorite part of the movie was when Keanu Reeves bought 3 sandwiches for $8. That was my
That was
favorite.
it. Yeah, it's like that's the world I want to live in. They say
Hands
movies are
down.
supposed to take you to a reality you want to be in. I want to be where I can get $8 sandwich,
For
3
3.
sandwiches, 3 sandwiches for $8.
They look just like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
They look just like
And
that.
then we can eat them with Gary Busey. Have a good
Oh
time.
my
Man,
God,
what a
yes.
fun time.
What a world.
Here's some Point Break trivia for you guys.
Yeah,
Some
let's have
fun
fun.
facts. Keanu Reeves observed real FBI agents in Los Angeles to study for the role. He also practiced with UCLA quarterback coaches to help him with the football scene.
Okay.
And this is something we know about Keanu Reeves.
I did not know that.
One of the things that makes him like such an interesting actor is no matter what role he's in, so in all the Matrix movies and all the John Wick movies, he would like learn how to do the martial arts or learn how to do the shit.
Well, now that is true.
So, yeah.
He is his own stunt.
In whatever role he's in, he'll like go above and beyond to learn how to do it. And so I haven't seen them myself, but a lot of people have told me about. You can go online and watch him do target practice, and it's pretty cool. So the film was originally called Johnny Utah when Keanu Reeves was cast in the title role. The studio felt that this title said very little about surfing, and by the time Patrick Swayze was cast, the film had been renamed to Riders on the Storm after the famous song by The Doors. However, the lyrics had nothing to do with the film, and so the title was also rejected. It was not halfway through the filming that Point Break became the film's title because of its relevance to surfing. Co-producer Rick King first came up with the idea for the movie while lounging on the beach. He'd been given an LA Weekly article about Los Angeles being the robbery capital of America and dreamed up a movie about an FBI agent infiltrating a surf gang that robs banks to fuel their fun.
Oh, a surf gang.
He was on the beach. He saw surfers and like, I bet you they could be bank robbers. Or maybe he was working on a movie and he met a really mean surfer who like ticked him off. He's like, I'm gonna make a movie about you.
Ooh, I like that
Yeah.
part. I like that. That sounds more that's what I would go with.
That's it. Yeah. This is a fun little fact. The film inspired a piece of cult culture.
Yes, it did.
Point Break Live. Have you ever seen this?
No.
Okay. In which the role of Johnny Utah is played by an audience member chosen by popular acclamation after a brief audition. The new Keanu reads all of his or her lines from cue cards for the duration of the show to capture the rawness of a Keanu Reeves performance, even from those who genuinely think themselves incapable of acting. In 2013, Gary Busey attended a performance.
Died. I would have died.
Can you imagine?
I would have died. I would have died.
And so he received rapturous applause. That's a fun word, rapturous.
I love that.
Applause worthy
Rapturous.
of the rapture from the audience when he joined the cast on stage.
There is no way I could. You couldn't. There is no way.
Right. And then Lori Petty would also occasionally turn up and participate in the. Can you imagine Also, like it would be fun to see. I feel like Keanu Reeves is like one of those actors that's fun to like impersonate. Like
Oh,
everyone, like you killed it just early. Like you would have done you and then great. We need to let's just go to New York every weekend.
oh my
Try to
God.
find
Yes, let's
live
go.
until you.
There is no let Gary Busey be somewhere near me. Gary, what's up, boo?
Yeah,
What we doing?
where are we going? Let's do it.
Where we going, bruh? Let's go. I love Gary Busey.
This is my favorite of the trivia. 20th Century Fox had plans for a sequel of the film to be released in the summer of 1993. In fact, a script had been written and was already in pre-production. Despite this film's grossing 90 million worldwide, the studio decided to scrape the project. So my big question is, what would the sequel be about? And could we please call it 2.2 Break?
Okay, here's the sequel. Johnny didn't retire, and the wave he rode that wave all the way to Greenland.
Okay. And Johnny had to get to Greenland.
And Johnny had to get. He was like,
Turns
"I'm
out,
the only one
yeah.
that can find this man."
Or like, what if he was retired, living a nice, happy life with Tyler, but then word gets out that Bodhi's still alive, and so like the FBI come over to him in his happy retired life.
Absolutely, that's even better. Yeah,
We need you to come
we
back.
need you to come back.
And at first he's like, no, and they're like, but we got a picture, and they show of Patrick Swayze Bodhi, and he's like, all right,
Right. Or they show a picture of him and Bodhi together at the end of it when they were talking. Like, so you know where he is,
yeah,
because you let him go.
Oh yeah, and and because at that point he that he was wanted. They were like, you're part of it, so
you're part of it.
He has to clear his own.
He has to clear his
name. 2.2 break.
Yes, breaking point 2.
Yes, yeah, points broken.
Points broken.
All right, well that's
that was fun.
Now we're actually going to bring back something that we didn't do. Maybe we did in our first or second episode for season 1, but then because we were ranking the movies, we stopped doing it. But this is a cool thing. It's called the Too Fast, Too Furious movie ranking.
Ooh.
Me and CJ are both going to take turns, and we're gonna give our personal ranking. Now, for those of you listening who have strong opinions, this isn't about like how cinematically masterful the movie was. This isn't about like the actors' performances. This is just point blank, just how did we enjoy the movies, right? So it's a whole, you can't miss. It's just your opinion, and we're going to give you all options to go on our stuff and rank the movies.
Absolutely.
As well. But it's called a Too Fast, Too Furious movie ranking, and we have 4 options.
Okay.
Too Fast means you loved it, great movie, loved it, made your life better. Fast is you liked it, it was good. There's a lot of good movies, but you wouldn't, you don't have to say that they were your favorite ever, but you enjoyed them.
Absolutely.
Furious is more of like a meh or don't care, or maybe you didn't like it, like, but you don't have a strong reaction, but like you wouldn't go see it again. And then Too Furious is like you hated it. You almost to the point where like my life is a little bit less good because of that.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I'll go first. I'm going to start strong because I know, and I was telling CJ this before the podcast. This was a good movie. I also know looking forward, I won't be giving this nice ranking to all the movies we're talking about because we got some weird ones coming up, and we hope you guys with us, and you're patient with us on some of the movies because they're rough, some of them. But for this movie, I really enjoyed it. One of my favorite things about this movie and many movies in the 90s is it had a good plot. It wasn't, cookie cutter where you knew everything that has had. I mean, the characters had development, the plot was good.
Yeah.
I at one point I thought Gary Busey was going to be the dirty cop or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah.
It had some twists and turns. So as our first movie of season 2, I'm going to give this a Too Fast rating because I really liked it.
Okay. I am going to give it a Too Fast as well.
Let's do it.
I loved it. I loved everything about it. I love the movie so much that I named my dog after Patrick Swayze. His name was Swayze Patrick. It was a chow chow, and he was beautiful. I loved, besides the character plot and the whole plot of the movie, I honestly loved the fact that they cast these actors in this movie. I don't know who else could have been Bodhi.
Right.
But Patrick Swayze,
I mean, he
at
owned
that
it,
time,
yeah.
he really owned it. I like how it made me. I like how it's been copied. I like how it's now that we've gone over this.
Yeah.
I can see how it has really turned through the test of time for people.
Absolutely. And it also kind of set a new demographic for action films. I mean, they didn't have to always be like Rambo, Terminator. Like
Absolutely.
this was 100% an action film, but it looked a little bit different. The characters had more depth. The hero, Keanu Reeves wasn't like buff Rambo.
No, no, no. This movie made me, when I was in college, made me write my play or my script about how even if it's a bad person, they might be doing it for some reason. They might not be Dahmer bad,
Yeah.
but just Bodie bad.
Yeah, and those make for good villains.
I
where
think so.
There's
You
gray
can
area.
understand it.
Yeah,
He was a definitely gray villain.
yeah, and you can still say he was wrong, but you get a good written character. You can be like, but I see why he is the way he.
Yeah, I see why he did it.
Okay, well, cool. That was fun. So now we're in the part. It used to be called Bailey's Best Bits, and kind of in honor of her. She's not dead. She's fine, by the way.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah. But we're gonna keep the tradition going, but we're gonna alternate who does it. So today it's Drew's Best Bits. Next week's it might be CJ's Best Bit. We'll just keep it up. So here's the way it works. I picked 3 scenes from the movie. And CJ's got to pick my quote unquote best. Now, it doesn't always have to be my favorite. Maybe I really don't like all the movie and I pick my most hated bits. Or maybe I pick like what's funniest to me and she has to pick like which one. For today, I picked kind of one of my favorite scenes was the raid when they go in, because and they go in, they break into the house and it's so overly violent and
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. I remember that.
and I don't know if this was the emotion they were going for, but to me it felt a little out of place in the movie. And so it was kind of funny, especially when you look at it from the perspective of like 2025.
Okay,
so I thought the action sequences were just random and fun. I enjoyed it. So for today's best bits, I'm gonna give you my 3 favorite parts of that action sequence, and you have to pick which part stood out to me the most. Is like the
okay.
best.
All right, I'm ready.
So the first was that lawnmower part where he's got Keanu Reeves' face close to the lawnmower.
I
and
remember
it
that.
almost gets cut up. But then of course Gary Busey says something. He says like, "Speaking to the
microphone."
Yeah,
I remember that.
Um,
That's a famous line.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize that's where that came.
That's where it came from.
Then speaking of Gary Busey, when the person has the woman, the knife up, and he just gets a clear old headshot, and like that was the first part of like that kind of snuck up to you because you were seeing like mild action, and then he just straight shoots a guy at the head, and then from there like the rest of it, and then the last one is the guy's being chased by Keanu Reeves, and so what he does is he throws a dog at him.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, he threw the pit bull.
Yeah, that guy's like, take that.
I think your favorite just might have been that last one.
Last one? Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
It is my favorite. They were all fun, but it was just so random.
That's why I chose that one.
Random. And there's a fun fact that's equated to it because I didn't know this until this was still my favorite part before I learned this fact, but it's like a fun fact that goes with it.
I was right.
So yeah, you were right. So,
okay,
so right now
I got a point.
1 CJ, 0 Drew.
Okay, good.
I am currently undefeated in this, and they don't call it the bloodbath of 2024 for nothing.
I got it.
So we'll see. The fun fact about that dog scene is there was actually a lot of commotion when that movie came out, and they showed that because they were afraid that someone threw a real dog at a person, and so they didn't actually throw the dog. They had a scene where it looked like he was throwing, and then when it's flipped to Keanu Reeves, they had like a fake dog, like a model, something thrown at him, but it wasn't the same dog. But like if you're watching it kind of I could see how people think.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, but no, people were up in arms about it.
I think that the reason I chose that scene as your favorite is because it's such a comedic scene,
right?
That I could just see you doing this. Like, what? Why would you? Like, I can just see your face. Like, why?
I was literally. I mean, like I said, it's fun when you watch movies that you've never seen before because you don't know what to expect. So already, I thought this action scene was over the top.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, did they just throw a dog?
Yeah.
So it was
not a tire, not a barrel, a dog. Like, a big dog at that.
I mean, you're on the run. You gotta use what's around you. So I guess that makes sense.
A big dog at that. No, that's good.
So next week we'll see if I can catch up, or if I'm forever going to be a loser in this season of so. But I'm not used to losing. So I'm gonna take time to reflect and grow as a person. And
speaking of dogs, we're gonna show you something at the end of this episode.
Yes, yeah, you stick around to see. I hope it's your dog. And
yes, I'll go get him. So you can say hi.
A couple more things. First of all, we always we like to towards the end of our episodes we like to take a moment and spotlight a creative, someone we know, someone who gets connected with us. It's called a quarter mile spotlight, and we're spotlighting CJ's guns apparently with muscles right there. So
I was trying to get
our
something there.
our quarter mile spotlight this week, I almost said month, but we are at a weekly podcast. So this week is one of my favorite organizations. They are I can't even say like they're one of our sponsors. They are our sponsors currently. We hope to get more, but they are our sponsors, which gave them the right to be our first spotlight of season 2. D&D Fitness. They make unique, flattering, functioning attire for the days when you go to the gym for just you. So D&D stands for Do Not Disturb, and so they have booty shorts that say Do Not Disturb for when
Oh, I like
the
that.
creepy guy comes in and talks to you at the gym. Some of you may remember that I filmed as the creepy guy talking to Bailey at the gym. If you're looking for D&D apparel, which they have a lot of great stuff, they have iconic Gym Creep shirt, which is taken off right now. A lot of Memphis comics are actually, it's a Memphis-based company, so Memphis comics are helping model.
Shout out to 901, man. I love Memphis.
They're doing great. DNDFitnessApparel.com is where you can go to get the clothing, to check it out, to see the cool events they have. And speaking of cool events, on March 8th, they have an upcoming event in Memphis called the Right to Brew Arms. It's at High Cotton Brewery, and it is a arm wrestling competition. And so you can sign up and you can be part of the arm wrestling contest. You can also go be a vendor there if maybe you have something that you sell or a brand that you support, or if you just want to sponsor them and help create this really cool event. These are all things you can do. It's on March 8th. It's going to be awesome. So dndfitnessapparel.com for more information. Very cool people. They're doing great things. And if that's something that's your speed, we will have their information in our episode notes. You can check it out.
D&D Fitness. Is that not the theme?
It should be. It is now. Thank you so much for being with us with this week. Next week, we are covering a different movie. If you were like, man, they're not talking about Fast and Furious enough, don't worry. Next week, we're jumping back to Fast and Furious. We're going to be talking about the Turbocharged Prelude, which was the movie before the movie. Nobody asked for what happened between 1 and 2 in Fast and Furious, but they were like, hey, let's give you a random 6-minute movie. Yeah, isn't necessary, probably not. But there is a lot that can be said about it. Maybe. I don't know. It might be a shorter episode. I've been getting a lot of people asking about it. So we're excited to cover it. Follow all of our socials, the Quarter Mile Podcast, on anything that you want. And thank you so much. This is just a reminder. We're all about good vibes, having fun, enjoying life. Life's short. Go do something awesome this week. Go hang out with your friends. Go try something new. Go watch a new movie.
Oh, wait. Before you say that, hold on.
Okay, I'm holding. So you've already met CJ, but today we also want to introduce you to maybe one of our other co-stars. This is Gizmo. He is so excited.
He's very excited. Say hi, Drew.
He's like, I want to do everything in this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just your friendly reminder. Go find a cute dog, pet him, have a good time, and live your life a quarter mile at a time.
Drew, thank you so much for having me on. I really, really appreciate it.
Love having you here. We're excited to do more episodes.
Yes.
So see you, CJ. See you, Gizmo. See you all next week. Have a good one.